Okay, we're at college algebra. This is section 4.5, and we're going to discuss the rational root theorem. So the rational root theorem says that if your function has integer coefficients, then every rational solution, in other words, where y equals 0, has the following form. So if you look at this, this is a fraction. The numerator are all the possible factors of the constant term, and the denominator is all the factors of the leading coefficient. This will make more sense when we do an actual example. So the rational root theorem can actually be the starting point for finding solutions to polynomial equations. For example, in this section, you're going to be asked to list all the possible real solutions to that function. So let's look at the leading coefficient is 1, and the constant term is 15. So remember the P over Q. P is all the factors of the constant term, which is plus or minus 1, 3, 5, and 15. And since the leading coefficient is 1, I know that that's my only possibility for the denominator. So the possible real zeros of this function is plus or minus 1, plus or minus 3, plus or minus 5, or plus or minus 15. And then I'm going to graph that. I'm just going to put that in my graphing calculator to look at my solutions. But when they ask you to list all the possible real zeros, this would be your answer. Okay, so the next part of this section is problems like this. Write a polynomial function f of least degree that has the leading coefficient of 1 and the given zeros. Okay, so we're going to do A and B. We're going to start off with A. So if these are my given zeros, first of all, there's 3 zeros. That means the function with least degree, it's going to be cubic, right? The degree of this function would be a 3. So if these are my solutions, then I know that these are my factors. X plus 2, x would be negative 2 if this whole thing is set equal to 0. If 3 is a 0, then I know that x minus 3 is my factor. If 6 is a 0, then I know that x minus 6 is one of my factors. So since I know what the factors are, I'm just going to go ahead, multiply this part first. I get this. And then I'm going to multiply this times the last factor. And when you do that, this is the equation that you get. I'm going to collect like terms. My final answer would be x cubed minus 7x squared plus 36. All right. This one's going to be a little more involved because of my irrational answer right there. Okay. Let's go ahead and flip the page, and I'll show you how that one was worked out. Okay, so remember, these are my zeros. Let's do the easy ones first. If 6 was one of my solutions, then I know that x minus 6 is one of my factors. If 0 is one of my solutions, then I know that just x was one of my factors. And if this is one of my zeros, then I know, remember the irrational conjugate theorem, that if this is one of my zeros, then so is this. So this is how you would see this written in the book. This whole thing times this whole thing, that's a mess. I need to make that look like something I can work with. So I'm going to rewrite this part right here. Let me get a highlighter. I'm going to rewrite this whole part right here. I'm going to just regroup it, right? So each one of these has an x minus 3. And then what's left over is this negative square root of 5 times the positive square root of 5, which is just a negative 5. All right? So this binomial squared is x squared minus 6x plus 9, and then you'd subtract 5 from it to get x squared minus 6x plus 4. So remember, I'm trying to write a polynomial of least degree that have these zeros. So now that I have the factors all written out, I'm just going to multiply this times this whole thing. X squared times x squared is x to the 4th. X squared times negative 6x is negative 6x cubed. X squared times a positive 4 is a positive 4x squared. Negative 6x times x squared is negative 6x cubed. Negative 6x times negative 6x is a positive 36x squared. Negative 6 times a positive 4 is a negative 24x. Combine like terms, and this is my answer. So whenever you have an irrational zero in the form a minus b, the square root of b, or a plus the square root of b, if that's a 0, then the factor is written x minus whatever a is squared minus whatever b is. This would be pretty handy to have in your notes. And you use this when you have for irrational zeros that are written in this form. A plus or minus square root of b. All right. And I think that's it for 4.5.